Hello, people. What's happening? What's going on? Back again with another live stream. I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes for some people to come in. Like literally after I set everything up to go live, it just dawned on me that it is a Saturday night, and y'all are probably out clapping cheeks or whatever you do on Saturdays. Uh, so there may not be as many people on the live stream as usual. But I felt compelled. I felt compelled to come out here and talk to you all. I missed live stream yesterday, and I was working all day to finish my latest article on Substack. And boy, it is a doozy. It is a doozy. I got uh, some. I guess you could say original reporting. Uh, Yeah, so I see Majin Bull in the chat. Uh, George E in the chat. What's up? Majin Bull says, clapping cheeks. I'm happy to know I'm not the only one who uses this phrase. Well, I will happily share that with you, Majin Bull. And I like your name too. Uh, Definitely was a big Dragon Ball Z fan growing up. So respect the name. But see if I can get a couple more people in the chat. But yeah, like I said, I guess it's some original reporting I have for you all because, and if you couldn't tell, I'm wearing my extra fresh new shirt. That's a lie. I'm wearing this shirt because I have to do laundry, and I this might be the last clean shirt that I have, so that's why I have this my fancy new shirt on. But we can say it's for the original reporting. So there was a report that came out. Ooh, it was a report that came out a couple days ago. I want to say from the Center for Responsive Politics, and they went over how. So there's these things called leadership packs. Most politicians have them, and they looked at like the Congress members of Congress's different leadership packs and their expenditures, what they're spending money on, and they found out that most of the time they aren't even so that's supposed to be for um, political purposes for elections to elect or to donate or support other candidates and things like that. That's what the leadership packs are technically for. But there was a report that found that a bunch of politicians were using it for a bunch of other shit. Like Rand Paul was like one of the worst examples. They said that like only 12% of the expenses from his leadership pack went to like political like causes, political purposes. And the rest of it was just like on hotels and fucking vacations and fancy ass restaurants and things like that. And that's the case with most members of Congress. So that got me interested in the expenditures and political expenditures and how these campaigns are spending their money. And I went to look at the our good friends at the Justice Democrats, and I happened to stumble upon something else. Oh, the volume is pretty low. Um, Give me 1 second. Turbo, is that better? Give me a one in the chat if the volume's okay. Um, but yeah, I went looking and I found that the Justice Democrats gave. Okay, so it's not just. I don't know what the issue with the volume is. Maybe if I put the mic closer. How's the volume? Okay, because I don't want to turn the gain up too high because sometimes when I turn the gain up too high, the audio gets distorted. But so yeah, I found that a huge chunk of the money that they're raising from regular grassroots working class donors, under the guise that they're going to take that and bust up the establishment, challenge the status quo with that money. Turns out they're giving a huge chunk of it to DNC consultants. And if this isn't your first rodeo, the shell game with DNC consultants has been widely reported, and there's a lot of corruption in that. These consultants are just Democratic Party operatives, insiders who just get paid outrageous sums of money to give advice candidates on some very shitty campaign strategies that ultimately revolve around, fuck, I didn't take my medicine, my prescription. Give me 1 second. What time is it? 11. I'm gonna have to take it sometime in this live stream. But so yeah, that's gonna be a story that I get into. The other story, I'm finally gonna talk about the doctor who, not the doctor, the ethics professor in Canada who was fired because she refused to comply with the vaccine mandate. I mean, I have some thoughts on this because I and her reasoning is as sound as it can possibly be. And again, when prominent people, basically anybody, really talks about the unvaccinated, they do a good job of strawmanning the shit out of them and making it seem like they're a bunch of dumb redneck Trump supporters who don't know anything and they're just like drunk on Fox News or something like that. But there are plenty of people who are rightfully hesitant, and it's not because they're drunk on misinformation. It's not because they don't understand how science works. They've done their research. They looked at the data and they've made the decision for themselves that it's best for them not to get the vaccine. And there are plenty and plenty of people like that. Many of them have come to their own decisions on their own, but people are not respecting that. And for some reason, it's as if bodily autonomy, it just doesn't exist anymore. And I understand that it's a pandemic. I understand it's an emergency, but there was this very old saying by one of the founders in this country, something about if you're willing to give up your freedom for security, for the promise of security, you deserve neither. Um, Again, do I think that the government has certain, especially in an emergency, they're granted certain authorities that they wouldn't be during normal times? Yes. But I don't think it should just be a green light for them to do whatever they to just send edicts from on high, and there should be no pushbacks. And especially when it comes to something like a medical procedure where you're injecting people with a vaccine that is technically still experimental. So I don't think their emergency authorities to deal with this pandemic should just be a blanket and covers everything and anything up and including uh, uh, forcing people to get a vaccine that they aren't comfortable with for whatever reason, or a medical procedure that they're not comfortable with for whatever reason. So actually, I think I'm just going to start with that story. I'm going to do it like real quick, and then I'm going to get to the Justice Democrats, my original reporting on the Justice Democrats. So let me just find the clip for you all. But first, if you guys want to help support the stream, help support the show, the links are in the description box right underneath this video. The links to Patreon, PayPal. Okay, so I noticed something with the lightings, and it's going to drive me up a fucking wall if I don't fix it. Um, I'm gonna go to try to fix that real quick. But if you guys would like to help support the show, the links are in the description box. Like I said, links to PayPal, Patreon. So grateful for all the people who sign up and support the show monthly on Patreon. There's links to a GoFundMe so that I can help raise money for an apartment so I can have a regular place to record, because over the last few weeks I've been recording from hotel rooms because I don't really have a place to stay. So that has been expensive and not ideal. So if you want to help support the show, links are in the description box. There's also a pinned link to PayPal in the live chat if you all are there in the live chat. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to do something to fix the lighting, and then I'll be right back. Noticed the mic was off. I did the thing with the lights. It did not make as big a difference as I thought it would make. Oh well. Lights look fine. So I'm gonna play the clip for you all. The clip from the
Powers. I
ethics
think Rashida
professor who
Tlaib, Ilhan
got
Omar.
fired
Take
in
it.
Canada. Give me 1 second. I need to find the
Powers. I think
correct
Rashida Tlaib,
video.
Ilhan Omar, taking really brave stand.
My name is Julie Panesi, and this message is about mandatory vaccination. My name is Julie Panesi, and this message is about mandatory vaccinations. I am a professor of ethics at Huron College at the University of Western Ontario. It's one of the largest universities in Canada. Today I'm going to teach you a short lesson on the universally accepted ethics of coercing people into medical procedures. I'll be the example. My employer has just mandated that I must get a vaccine for COVID-19. If I want to keep working at my job as a professor, I have to take this vaccine. Here's my conundrum. My school employs me to be an authority on the subject of ethics. I hold a PhD in ethics and ancient philosophy. And I'm here to tell you it's ethically wrong to coerce someone to take a vaccine. If it happens to you, you don't have to do it. If you don't want a COVID vaccine, don't take one. End of discussion. It's your own business. But that is not the approach of the University of Western Ontario, which has suddenly required that I be vaccinated immediately or not report for work. So with the school year beginning in a few days, I am facing imminent dismissal after 20 years on the job. because I will not submit to having an experimental vaccine injected into my body. I've had plenty of vaccines in my life, but I've never been forced to take one. It's always been my choice. I don't work in a high-risk environment. I'm not a doctor in an emergency room. I'm a teacher. I'm a university professor. My job is to teach students how to think critically, to ask questions that might expose a false argument. Questions like, says who? Who is the authority giving this order? Should I trust them with control over my body? As a professor, I don't have to watch the news to find out if the COVID vaccines are safe. I read medical journals, and I consult my colleagues who are professors of science and medicine. I've learned from doctors that there are serious questions about how safe these vaccines really are. There are questions about how well they work. Nobody's promising that I won't get COVID or transmit COVID if I get the vaccine. But ultimately, none of that matters to me because I'm a professor of ethics and I'm a Canadian. I'm entitled to make choices about what does and does not enter my body, regardless of my reasons. If I'm allowed back into my university, it's my job to teach my students that this is wrong. I'm hired to teach them that it is ethically wrong to impose an experimental medical procedure as a condition of employment. This is my first and potentially my last lesson of the year. Ethics 101. In the spirit of Socrates, who was executed for asking questions, this lesson will consist of only one question. The answer is multiple choice. Please listen carefully. When a person has done the same job to the satisfaction of her employer for 20 years, is it right or is it wrong to suddenly demand that they submit to an unnecessary medical procedure in order to keep their job? In this case, the procedure is an injection of a substance that has not been fully tested for safety. It has not yet been shown to be effective. It is designed to prevent an illness that poses little threat to the employee. The employee is not allowed to ask questions. She may only submit to the procedure or be fired. To my first-year students, is this right or is this wrong? I already know the answer.
That was amazing, Julie.
Sorry. Sorry.
All right, so I got a couple things to say. Uh, so her reasoning is as sound as it can possibly be. And I love that she went out of her way to make the point that I don't listen. I don't need to listen to mainstream news to find out that the vaccine is safe. I've done my own research and I've spoken to scientists and research experts who told me that there's serious concerns about it, and that was such a great point because this is something I've talked about before. If you turn on the TV, if you go to any listen to any public health official or any politician, it is just 100% pro-vaccine advertisements for the pharmaceutical companies. There is no room for dissent. There is no room for a reasonable disagreement. It is 100% get the vaccine or you deserve to die and the pandemic's your fault. That, like, there's no in between. So I appreciate her, like, it was like a little subtle jab at the unrelenting propaganda, as if like the media is the deciding factor, and if they say it's safe, then everybody needs to take it. Like, that's not how most people come to medical decisions for their selves and their own body. Like the professor said right there, she did her own research and she consulted experts that she knows, and they like I said, raised concerns about it. And and right after that, she makes a great point about how whether her reasons are sound, whether it was based in fact and it was based in research, as it is, as she says, all that's irrelevant, because at the end of the day, it's her body. She has her own autonomy, and whatever the reason behind her decision making process, it's her decision to make. And it's a weird place to be in as a society where so many people have just completely turned off their critical thinking skills, and just gone full authoritarian, and whatever the authorities say, I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna question it. I'm not gonna challenge it. I'm not gonna do my own research to see if the information, the data concurs with what they're saying. No, I'm just gonna believe what they say, and I'm gonna go with whatever they say. And anybody who doesn't follow their orders to the letter is a fucking heretic, and they deserve the worst. And again, so, and on top of that, there's something that she also mentioned in the video. She isn't like somebody who's like at a high risk of being hospitalized or dying from COVID. And that's not to say that many people who are healthy don't get. There are people who are healthy and get sick and they end up dying from it, or at a relatively young, and they get sick and they end up dying from it. Yes, it happens, but statistically, she made the calculation for herself that that isn't, the risk isn't high enough for her to overlook whatever possible concerns there is for if she gets the vaccine. That's a perfectly reasonable calculation for anybody to make. And then another point I want to make on this is how, so like what are you trying to do here with these mandates and these firings? Like, first of all, if you're trying to get more people to get vaccinated, yeah, if you make it a mandate, you force them, brute force of the government, do this, or face like whatever punishment, lose your job, or whatever the case may be. Yes, you will get more people to sign up, but there's going to be a sizable chunk of people who do not get the vaccine. They're going to call your bluff. And then what? You're going to fire them? You're going to fire them because they didn't agree with you on a medical decision for their own personal body. I mean, that's a wild, it's kind of a wild precedent to set here. And because here, look, you're going to, all those people who didn't end up getting vaccinated and they challenge the mandate and they play chicken and they get fired. What do you think is going to happen with them? You think that that's going to make them want to take the vaccine more? You just ruined their career, ruined their livelihoods to force them to do something that they weren't comfortable doing, to coerce them into doing something that they weren't comfortable doing. And they were so against it that they lost their job. One, at that point, I don't think there's anything you can do to for somebody like that to take the vaccine. But then on top of that, you just created a personal crisis for that person now, because like I said, that person is now out of a job, and it might be very hard for them to find a new job. So, and of course, the irony of all of this is she's an ethics professor. The university hired her to provide her expert opinion on ethics and teach courses on it at their university. And following the code of ethics that she is an expert in, that they hired her to teach, she is saying that these mandates are unethical. She tells them that it's unethical. And their response is not, especially to force it on them, no questions asked, no wiggle room or anything like that. She says it's unethical. To coerce people into doing a medical procedure is unethical. Instead of trying to understand the logic behind it and respecting her opinion on ethics, they just fire her. So the ethics professor tells you you're being unethical, and your response is to get rid of them. So, I mean, it's fucking crazy. And they're going to be, if people like are hardline about these mandates, they're going to let go. There are going to be a lot of people, critical thinkers, who are going to be out of a job. People who think for themselves, people who do research for themselves, people who aren't 100% subservient to power. Those are going to be a lot of the people who get fired. And it's going to be a sad thing in many professions. If like I said, the people with the most critical thinking skills end up being the ones forced out. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I think it's wild. I think it's unethical to be forcing people to do something, a medical procedure that they're not comfortable with, against their will. So let me see what's happening in the chat. George E says, take your damn medicine to, oh, I guess that must have been when I went to fix the lights, and I probably should have done that, Name is Mike says, how can anyone who says my body, my choice make an exception for the vaccines? I thought governance of your body, of your own body, was absolutely, yeah, it's a glaring hypocrisy. It makes absolutely no sense. Now people will try to, these lights are so damn bright. People will make they'll say, oh, it's an exception because public health, and that overrules the good of the public, overrules your individual rights, and generally, yes, that's true. You don't have the right to like, if you want to be happy, your pursuit of happiness means killing a bunch of people. Well, that's not your right anymore, because you're infringing on other people's rights. So generally, that is a dynamic that exists. But if we're going to make if we're going to now say that it's in the public good to force you to do an experimental medical procedure, I think there should be some debate around that, and people don't seem to be open to that. It's just do it my way or the highway, and I'm not interested in hearing a counter argument to that. So that's I see a lot of contradiction there. Majin Bo 17 says, I'm so tired of the celebration and wait, and the left is giving this infrastructure bill. Yeah, I talked about that. I did a video about that. I think it's horseshit. And I'm not gonna come out here and cheerlead that all, like, cause everybody, all the hosts in new media, they were all apparently somebody sent them all an email or something with the same talking points. These elected progressives, they're holding the line, they're holding firm, and they're gonna fight for that $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, and it's gonna be so amazing. So we gotta throw a parade, and we gotta show our support that they're holding the line and they're actually fighting. This is what we asked for, right? No, this isn't actually what I asked for. What I asked for is for you to fight for the shit that you ran on, the policies that are desperately needed and what the moment calls for. That's what I've been asking for. To say that, oh, I just been asking for a generic fight. Well, if you're going to be fighting over Medicare, lowering the Medicare eligibility age 5 years, I'm not with you on that fight. You will get no support from me on that fight. And I'm not even going to entertain that as a serious fight against the establishment. That's you begging for crumbs from the establishment. And again, I'm not with that shit. Screw Google says force to take the vaccine at best. That at best might keep you from going to the hospital. Yeah, and the more that the data comes out that shows that they're less effective, there's the argument to force people to do it grows even thinner. And here's a wild thing for me. It seems like getting the vaccine is just a non-falsifiable claim for everybody who made the decision to get the vaccine for themselves. Because imagine all the data, the exact opposite was happening. All the data was coming out that shows, oh, you get the vaccine and you're never going to get the or 99 it prevents you from getting the virus 99.9% of the time, and of course it prevents hospitalization, death, and things like that 99.99% of the time. And those numbers were just holding strong the entire time since the vaccination program started. If the data was going in that direction, all of those people who are still 100% pro-vaccine, they would have stuck to that position no matter what. But now all the data is going in the opposite direction. It's becoming less effective at reducing severe illness. It's becoming less effective at preventing the virus, at preventing transmission. And you can say, hey, that's good. That's better than nothing. Okay, we can say that, but don't tell me. But don't move the goalposts on me and say get the vaccine because it prevents you from getting the virus, and get the vaccine because it prevents you from getting seriously ill. And when it's less and less starts to do those things, you tell people, oh, get it anyway. Well, hold up, because again, this should cause for some pause and some skepticism. It's not delivering on what it said it was going to deliver on. So let's just pause a minute before we just keep acting like it's 100% working the way it's supposed to. But I'm gonna stop before I get my fucking channel, before I get another strike on my fucking channel. Turbo GG says, exactly, there's a religious fanaticism to all of this. Yeah, it is. It's a fucking religion. Like I said, it's a non-falsifiable claim. Get the vaccines because it works. Even though there's more data that shows it doesn't work, you need to get the vaccine because it works. I mean, at no point, like I said, at no point are they ever going to just reevaluate and say, okay, these aren't working like we thought they would. Let's really invest in some therapeutics. Let's really invest in building up people's immune system and making sure they're eating healthy foods and they have the vitamins in their body to protect against severe illness. Let's do those things in order to contain the virus. That's not part of the discussion. Like I said, it's a non-falsifiable claim that no matter what, you should just be getting the vaccine. North American Ape says, thank you for that $1 donation through Streamlabs. Give me 1 second. Oh. All right, I'm just opening the dashboard. Give me 1 second. Got some back end things to work on. As you all know, one-man band here. It's just me, myself, and I. No tech crew. Nobody helping me out with no with the donations. Nobody reading any comments from me or anything like that. What you see is what you get. Just your boy here. Let me see. I knew where they were the other day. I was able to find them pretty quick, the donations, because when I'm looking at it on Streamlabs, it's pretty small. So I have to go to the dashboard. Good fucking god damn. Uh well, I can't just keep going without reading it, so I'm gonna have to find it some way. Uh yeah, just bear with me. I'm gonna try to read it from like straight from Streamlabs, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass. I find it hilarious that you have progressive hoes who used to grill corporate Dems if they even said mealy mouth words like access in context to Medicare for all are now the same people cool with lowering the eligibility age. Yeah, it's and this is something that I talked about when I spoke about the infrastructure bill. It's like everybody acts like the Bernie Sanders campaign didn't happen, and what I mean by that is they're acting like all those promises of fighting the establishment for the necessary policies. They're acting like uh, um, they're acting like the urgency behind getting Medicare for all, even before the pandemic started. They're acting like all those things can now take a back seat. Everybody can just like wait now. There's more, people feeling less pressure or something, and they can accept less. Before, during the campaign, we need Medicare for all. Now it's an emergency. Genocidal levels of people are dying unnecessarily for the profit of the for-profit health insurance industry that we have in this country. But now, mid-pandemic, Democrats control the House, Senate, and White House. Well, actually, I think lowering the Medicare eligibility age 5 years, I think that's a good thing. Don't you guys think I think that's great. And everybody's just fucking nodding their head and going along with that shit. Everybody in new media, nobody's calling bullshit on Bernie Sanders. He is writing these bills. Bernie Sanders wrote the stimulus bill under Biden. He's writing this reconciliation bill. He's the chair of the budget committee. If he wanted to write Medicare for all into that reconciliation bill and dare the Democratic Party to vote it down, he could do that. And then pressure them to use public pressure to shame the shit out of them into to backing single payer. He can do that, but he's not doing that. And everybody in left media just threw their hands up and said, well, that's the best we're going to get. Whatever Bernie Sanders and the rest of these shitty Justice Democrats have on offer, that's the best we're going to get. And I'm not going to push for anything outside of that. Okay, well, you all have fun with that. That's not what I signed up for. So I'll be out here and I'm going to be raising hell for the shit that the policies that I agreed to originally, and I'm not budging a fucking inch from that. North American Ape says, with another donation on Streamlabs, says the infrastructure bill is another perfect example of folks taking their orders from politicians, because now that progressive politicians are pushing incrementalism, that then we need to just shut up and accept it because quote, something is better than nothing. Yeah. That's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Something's better than nothing. You can always use that excuse. And you know who always uses that? Neoliberals trying to push neoliberalism. So if that's what you sound like, maybe you should reevaluate what you're actually pushing for and agitating for. Turbo GG says, only thankful that burning at the stake is not a thing anymore. Yeah, honestly, I'm seeing people, and I always try to remind myself and remind everybody that we put on this veneer, this farce that we've come so far, and we're like these upright, civilized beings. We aren't like filthy savages anymore. Uh, Humans are fucking barbaric. In our very, 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 very recent history, we've done horrific, barbaric things to each other, and so when you made the comment about, I'm thankful that burning at the stake isn't a thing anymore. Yeah, like a lot of these people who are have this religious fervor, but like behind these vaccines, behind whatever Dr. Fauci says and things like that, like and are also like pushing to censor and get rid of anybody who disagrees and anybody who has a dissenting opinion. Like I made the comment the other day on Twitter about somebody, like, you're the type of person who would have been like all for book burnings back in the day. Like, oh, these fucking heretics and their dangerous ideas, quick, throw them in the fucking fire. Let's get rid of them. Like, I don't know. I would hope that we can grow past that. We can learn to engage with people on an intellectual level, but it just seems that many people in this country just refuse to do that. George E says, unfortunately, our governments have no ethics or morals. That is true. DOG says you don't go to school to learn critical thinking skills. Bruh, you go to school to learn how to fall in line and be sheep. She deserved to be out to get ousted here. I mean, that is true that that most education systems are like here in the United States. I can't speak for Canada 100%, but I don't think it's too wildly different. But it is a lot of training you to be a good little worker and not rock the boat and to follow orders in this capitalist a structure that we're all forced to live under. And they don't teach people how to think for themselves. Like I said, critical thinking. They don't teach people. One of the areas that I think it's particularly intentional is when they when it comes to like how to sustain yourself, how to make a living. They will only teach you in school that you need to go and at best you need to go learn and spend years and years in school and get higher education so then you could go work for somebody else and be the best worker be that you could possibly be. And they don't ever spend as much time showing people the avenues that they can try to like make a living for themselves outside of prostituting their mind and their body to make somebody else a bunch of fucking money. So in that way, it's very obvious that one of the main lessons for schools is to teach people to be obedient to authority. Ad Kid says, "What's up, unapologetic? Could you please partner up with Ralph Nader to help start a methodological campaign? Method. Okay, we understood. To help start a methodical campaign to bring about popular policies, Medicare for all, living wage." Um, I would definitely love to talk to Ralph Nader, and he is somebody in this world of politics that I do respect. And boy, the longer I am in it, the less respect I have for people in it. But I do respect Ralph Nader. I do think he's always keeping up the good fight. He did that third party run that will live in infamy, but I think it was necessary, and I wish more people were willing to take the slings and arrows to challenge the duopoly because it is so irreparable. Both of these major parties, and I respect Ralph Nader's uh, uh, opposition to the duopoly, his opposition to the corporatocracy, the corporate takeover of our government, and I do respect him as a force on the left. And ironically, which kind of leads into the next story I'm going to talk about, there I don't know if you guys know this. I can't remember where I heard it, but actually I heard it from directly from Ralph Nader. It might have been when he was on Bad Faith with Brianna Joy Gray, but he said that he's been trying to get in touch with the Justice Democrats and trying to work with them and use their massive platform and their massive following to create direct action and mobilize people and organize and for worker and people power outside of the duopoly. And they will not return Ralph Nader's phone calls. He showed up to their offices. They will not meet with him. And it's telling. That's telling. They don't got time for Ralph Nader, but they will do photo shoots with Mama Bear. And they'll bend over backwards to push Biden's agenda. But Ralph Nader could go kick rocks though. Georgie says, this may be the worst vaccine in the history of vaccines. Listen, man, this shit is definitely experimental. Okay, so there's so many live chats, and I'm over here thinking I'm gonna get to them all, and that was a fucking lie, because that's not gonna happen. We're already 51 minutes into the live stream. I honestly wasn't even planning on going real long today, but I need to get into my original reporting on the Justice Democrats. But first, you already know the deal. The links to help support the show in the description box, PayPal, Patreon. The links to GoFundMe for an apartment so I could have a regular place to record. I've been recording. I am currently recording out of a hotel. This is not an ideal situation. It costs money. There are technical, logistical issues that sometimes I cannot control. So if you guys can help me out in any of those ways, also the link to PayPal is pinned in the live chat. So let me get into this now. So at the beginning of the stream, I talked about how there was a story or a report that came out from, I believe, the Center for Responsive Politics, which is a group that follows, that tracks money in politics and things like that. And they found that, so most politicians, they have a leadership pack. And this is something separate from like their campaign funding apparatus. And it's supposed to be for, I believe, to help other candidates and for donations to other races and things like that. But they did the report and they did the study. They looked at FEC filings and they found out that most politicians aren't even using that money for what it's supposed to be used for. They're using it as a slush fund, basically, and as close as you can get to just like direct bribery in our current political climate. So it made me interested. It intrigued me and made me want to look more into political expenditures, because in politics, especially this wave, this era of anti-establishment, anti-corruption politics, we've learned that one of the best indicators for how a politician is going to act when they're in Congress is where the money comes from. Are they taking corporate money? Are they taking money from billionaires and millionaires? And if they are, it's a safe bet that they aren't going to do anything that disrupts the status quo. They aren't going to do anything that really challenges their corporate donors, because they want to keep that gravy train flowing. So we understand that about where the money comes from, and which is part of why the Justice Democrats had such a big appeal on the left, because they weren't talking about they weren't taking corporate money. They said we're not taking money from corporations, we're not taking money from billionaires and millionaires, we're going to be funded from regular working class people, poor people who believe in this political agenda, this policy agenda, and they're looking for some sort of political revolution to change the untenable status quo. That's what they were running on, right? So that gave them a level of credibility on the left, and it also made it very confusing how they aren't taking corporate money like the rest of the corporate Democrats, but yet they're just as beholden and unwilling to challenge the status quo as the rest of the politicians who take corporate money. So it was a weird paradox, and now I think we might have the answers to why it is they're still so subservient to Democratic leadership, even though they aren't taking money from them and they aren't taking money from their corporate donors. And it's because, I mean, an explanation for that is where they're spending their money. So I went through the FEC filings on open secrets for AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Rokana, and Ilhan Omar for the 2020 election cycle, and then this current 2022 election cycle. And I found that excuse me 1 second. I found that they spent $13 million at DNC, paid to DNC consultants. So to understand, there's some specific expenditures that are just outrageous, indefensible, inexcusable, make absolutely no sense. But just on the principle of it, on the logic, it makes no sense. You guys are supposed to be the insurgents. You're supposed to be there to be adversarial, confrontational with Democratic leadership and with the corporate Democrats in general. So, in order to carry out your political agenda and this quote revolution, you're going to dump unholy amounts of money into the same nexus of corporate influence, which are these shitty DNC consultants. You're going to dump all the money from the grassroots into those shady institutions. And what, that's going to get Medicare for all? That makes absolutely no sense. So on logic, it makes no sense. You're putting money into these firms who have a bunch of clients, who's the majority of their clients, the majority of the money that's coming into them is to oppose your agenda, but you're giving them the money because you think they're going to provide you with the strategy to advance your agenda. That makes no fucking sense on logic right there. But then, so you have to understand who these consultants are. Because it's the consultants, they're not just like a regular old campaign staff. I mean, and there's some words to be said about campaign staff in general, but these consultants, they are just a different version of the same insiders who become like lobbyists, for example. They are just career politicians, people who are supposed to be public servants, and they, while all the whole time they're in government and supposed to be working on behalf of people, they just really there maintaining the status quo and defending business as usual, and turning a blind eye to the corruption in the system. These are the insiders who are in government, working for corporate Democrats and whoever it may be. And then once they finally say, all right, fuck this government bullshit, now it's time for me to make some real bread, where the money at? And they leave the public service to join the private sector. Many of them, like I said, they will go and start their own consultant firms or join another consultant firm, and basically do the bidding of corporations, on the side of under the guise of providing campaign strategy to politicians. And there are so many sleazy Democratic operatives turned political consultants. In the Substack article that I wrote, Anita Dunn, who is she was Obama's communication director, White House communications director. She joined SKD Knickerbocker, which is like a big time consulting firm in DC. And in the 2020 election cycle, they got $70 million in work from the Democratic Party, and she's now the managing director at SKDK, which is the whatever. So, like, communications director goes straight to being consultant and influence peddling and making a killing there. Paul Begala used to work for Bill Clinton campaign. Now he's also a consultant, and he's on the board of the Democratic Majority for Israel Political Action Committee PAC, which is basically the Zionist pro-Israel PAC that smears anybody who's a Palestinian activist or speaks up for Palestinian rights. Those are examples of consultants participating in the revolving door. Also, Bernie Sanders and his staff, they're in on the grift too. So there was somebody, Kenneth something, who was Bernie Sanders' digital director in his 2016 campaign. Before that, he was a staffer at Bernie Sanders' Senate office. I think he was like deputy press secretary or something like that. He went and started a consulting firm, and big multi-million-dollar consulting firm, made $25 million last year. And so even the Bernie Sanders orbit, the people who are against money in politics allegedly and against all the corruption, they're in on the fucking grift too. And that consulting firm got money from a bunch of the Justice Democrats. Basically, every Justice Democrat gave money to that consulting firm. It's called Middle Seat Consulting. So it's a whole money-making operation. And the Justice Democrats are invested in the fucking grift. $13 million deep just since 2019. That's how invested they are in the grift. So, before I get any further into it, let me just give you some of the details, because like I said, the details are outrageous. With Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, $1.4 million was spent at this consultant firm, this marketing strategy group. It's the shorthand is FII, is Financial Innovation or something like that, Financial Innovation Inc. or something like that, and it's a big time marketing strategy, whatever, consulting firm. in DC, works with a bunch of corporate Democrats. She gave them $1.4 million this year alone, for her merchandise brand, so that they could run her online store. So you mean to tell me people are giving her millions of dollars so that she can fight for Medicare for all, so she can defend her seat, I guess, from challengers, and she takes $1.4 million and gives it to some DNC consultants so that they could run her online store. That sounds completely above board to me. That I don't see any issues there. And in the case of AOC, her obscene campaign spending makes even less sense, because she ran an insurgent campaign against Joe Crowley and blew his ass out. I think she spent like $500,000 in the primary against Joe Crowley. She was outspent like 10-1. Joe Crowley was like the fourth most powerful Democrat in the country, and he was the head of the Queen's Democratic Party. So she was going up against the entire New York Democratic apparatus, and with just $500,000, this no-name insurgent with no name recognition unseated one of the most powerful Democrats. So you mean to tell me? So you would think that now that has the power of incumbency, now that she is literally one of the most popular politicians in the country, and has over 10 million followers on Twitter, you would think she has unlimited amount of free media that she can get from new media if she wanted to, from corporate media. She controls news cycles. You would think that she'd be able to run a campaign, especially when she doesn't have any serious primary challengers. You would think she'd be able to run a campaign with less money, right? Well, the numbers say the exact opposite. She, like I said, spending unholy amounts of money on DC consultants and doing God knows what. I already talked about the $1.4 million she spent on her online store. And what do you think? How does that advance Medicare for all? I'm confused. How did that $1.4 million for a fucking merchandise store, a clothing brand, how did that secure her seat and make it so that she won't lose when she's up for re-election? Because that's what people are giving her money for. They think that she's fighting the establishment to advance a policy agenda and to protect her from losing her seat. I don't understand how a $1.4 million online store for a clothing brand does either of those things. But that's not it. On Facebook ads alone in 2020, she spent $5 million on Facebook ads. I have no idea first of all, you spent $5 million on Facebook ads. Was that just in your district? Again, there was no serious challenger anywhere in sight for AOC. So to spend $5 million on Facebook ads for what? What are the results? What did you get out of that? So that's fucking bizarre, inexcusable, and makes absolutely no sense, and is a waste of money. And then there was she gave $2 million to Middle Seat Consulting, the firm that was started by Bernie Sanders' former staffer, and she gave money to a bunch of to a couple other DNC consulting firms. And this is just AOC we're talking about. Pramila Jayapal started a PAC for Medicare for all. And almost all the money that came into the PAC went to buy ads. And another thing about ads is they are wildly ineffective. And honestly, the only reason why politicians spend so much on them is because the consultants that they hire always advise them to run more ads because that's what the consultants do. They make the fucking ads and they run the ads. So it's like they're just advising them to do shitty strategy that's going to make them a bunch of money. So it makes no sense for regular politicians to be doing this shit, but for Justice Democrats, who with the name recognition that they have and the popular policy platform that they have, it makes absolutely no sense. Because what are you doing with the Medicaid for All PAC from Pramila Jayapal? Spent like $900,000 on ads. Who did you convince to support Medicare for All with a commercial? Who did that? Who did that work for? Like, I'm just very fucking confused. How much did that move the needle to advance single payer? Does anybody have an estimate on that? Or are we just writing blank fucking checks to DNC consultants and expecting no results? Because what the fuck is the point of that? And also, Pramila Jayapal gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to other big name DNC consultants. And again, these are incumbents with no serious challengers against them who are the most popular politicians in the country and are running on an incredibly popular platform. Why do you need to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on shitty DNC consultants to advise your campaign? If you wanted to hire people to hire more staff at your campaigns, or more people to do phone banking, or to knock on doors, or you wanted to organize political events for the community, get everybody out there, get everybody organized, if you want to organize direct action or whatever, that all those things make more sense and actually advance the policy agenda of the left. But this blank check to DNC consultants, I don't see what possible results they're producing if you're talking about advancing a policy agenda for the movement. So there's that. And then the most ethically dubious of them all was Ilhan Omar, who gave $2.9 million to a consultant firm, DNC consultant firm, that her husband just started, gave $2.9 million of campaign money to her husband's consulting firm. And, I mean, that's... You want to talk about the line, like, walking that fine line of just straight-pocketed campaign money, that might literally be as close as you could get to breaking the law without breaking the law. And I couldn't even guarantee you that she didn't break the law, because she, at the end of 2020, she, with no explanation, she terminated all the contracts that she had with her husband's consulting firm. And that was the end of it. She's provided no explanation for it. She's provided no justification for how, in any way, that was ethical or did anything to secure her congressional seat. It just looked like a money-making operation for her husband to get a piece of the money rolling in for a campaign. So, what my takeaway from looking at their campaign expenditures and seeing how they spent 13, and these are just these 4 Justice Democrats. God knows how much the rest of them spent, and Bernie Sanders and all his presidential campaign. But my takeaway is, okay, so we've all been trying to rack our brains around what is in it for them. What are they getting out of always folding for Democratic leadership and never challenging them? And it was hard to say because we don't see the money going into the, like, we don't see them doing paid speeches yet. We don't see them taking corporate money. So it was just hard to see what the hold that the Democratic Party has over them is. But looking at their expenditures and how invested they are in these DNC consulting firms that produce absolutely no fucking results. It's clear to me that they're playing the game just like everybody else in Washington, D.C. Now, they might not take the money from the same sources that everybody else does, but they're playing the same exact game. And they are greasing the palms of the power brokers in the Democratic Party, all the kingmakers and the people who have endless amounts of corporate money at their disposal. They're greasing their palms and giving them millions and millions of dollars to consult them on their campaigns. And eventually, they're going to get in on the action too. Eventually, there's going to be a return on their investment. There's no way that they're spending that $13 million because they think that it's going to advance Medicare for all and it's going to get us closer to Medicare for all. If you ask me, they've spent that money because they know that a time is going to come when they either get out of government or they want a promotion or whatever it is, and they are going to be looking for to suck on the teeth, to feed off of the teeth of the corporate donors in the Democratic Party, and so they want to stay in the good graces of the Democratic Party, and donating to all their consultant buddies is a great way to do it, and so is never challenging them at any consequential moments. So it's when I saw that, everything made sense to me because I already knew that they were in it for their career. I came to that conclusion, but there was so much clarity because there was no way that they were ever going to stop the CARES Act from going through, the largest upward transfer of a giant corporate heist in the middle of an emergency. There was no way they were going to stop that from happening and make a scene and demand a real people's bailout. There was no way they were ever going to do that because that would have crossed leadership in a way that would have burned that bridge for them. And when they are looking to cash in off of their maintenance and maintaining and defending the status quo, when they are looking to cash in on being good partisan Democrats, had they gone that far, that might be a career ender for them. So there was no way they were going to stop the CARES Act. There was no way they were not going to lie and shill and do a little jig for Joe Biden and lie and manipulate their entire base and pretend like, oh, Joe Biden is not that bad, even though he's the architect of this rotten corporate status quo that we're all living under. There was no way that they weren't going to do that again, because they will do anything to stay in the good graces of the Democratic Party. So there was no way that they weren't going to do that. They have $13 million invested in their lucrative future careers in the Democratic Party, and they weren't going to risk that by not lying for Joe Biden. So what's what they're going to do? They're going to come out and lie for Joe Biden because, bitch, the check's going to clear if I do that. There was no way that they were going to remove Nancy Pelosi from her seat as Speaker of the House and force a vote on Medicare for all, because that would have been rocking the boat too much. Democratic leadership and the Democratic establishment would never forgive them for that. So that was never an option on the table. Everything makes so much sense now because, like I said, they are as committed to playing this game, the corrupt, dirty money game in politics, as anybody else. And it's even more egregious because at least the rest of these corrupt politicians have the decency to beg their corporate masters to fund their career ambitions and their lucrative endeavors. These Justice Democrats, they defrauded us out of millions of dollars, and then they used the money that they pretended that they were going to fight for us with. They use that money to buy into the corrupt political machine. If I don't know if you guys, anybody here plays poker, but that was their buy-in. All of our donations, that was their buy-in, and they're buying in at these cash. They're putting their money in. Their seat at the table is spending ungodly amounts of money at these consultant firms, and putting money directly in the pockets of some of the power brokers and wheelers and dealers in the Democratic Party that are these shady consultants. So I think it's wild. I know nobody else is talking about this because I wrote the article, the one and only article on this, and published it on Substack today. The link to that will be in the description box. I have to change the link. There's a link to another Substack article in the description box. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. If you guys appreciated the findings, and I will be doing more reporting, I guess, on some of these campaign finance issues when it comes to the Justice Democrats, because I don't think enough scrutiny's been paid to where the money's coming from and where it's going with these Justice Democrats. Everybody, they said, oh, we're not taking corporate money, and nobody, they just got to pass. They just got to pass, and everybody gives them the benefit of the doubt that they are good, kind-hearted people, only in it to help everybody. But that's not the case, and you can always the money always tells the actual story. So there will be more of that from me. If you guys want to help support that, you could sign up in my Substack. My Substack's free for everybody, but always have the option to pay if you want. Patreon, PayPal, all of those links are in the description. There's also a link to a GoFundMe for a place that it could permanently record and work and things like that. So let me see what's happening in the chat. Zani2 says, speak for yourself, don't tell. I don't know where the money comes from. I barely know how to find enough to keep death of despair away from my doorstep. USA, USA, USA. Maxwell McIsaac says, I really appreciate your willingness to address the deep state unapologetic. This lobbyist cycle is the deep state, is a corruption. Yeah. I think they're playing a game out in the open, and they're hoping that, and it works, so it's not really hoping. This is a tried and true strategy, which is they do it out in the open, but it's so many layers to it that if you really are looking for something, you can find it. It'll take you some time to find it, but they're banking on the fact that most people aren't gonna go through all those layers of digging to find out just how corrupt this whole thing is. And honestly, I don't know how it would happen or when it would possibly happen, but at some point, somebody's gonna blow the lid on this whole consultant grift going on. Because, I mean, there's an argument to be made that the reason that corporate money in politics and campaign spending is so out of control, directly connected to these consultants because they're the ones who keep running up the prices because they just write blank checks for themselves and the campaign just write give it to them, and then their whole strategy is just buy more ads. Come to me, give me more money so I can make more ads, and then I'll run more ads. So the campaign finance system in this country is so artificial, and all of that money is going to the campaigns, not to the campaigns. All of that money is going to the consultants. Because you have to understand, people talk about campaign donations and they're like, oh, you take corporate money, all this corporate money is going to your campaign. And they act like it stops there, but that's not where it stops. That money has to go somewhere. And that money goes to the pockets of these consultants. In the Substack article that I wrote on this, I added the clip of Nomiki Konst from when she was speaking at the DNC Reform Commission. And she was going in about the consultants and how much the DNC was paying consultants. She said in the 2016 election cycle, the DNC spent anywhere between $700 and $800 million on the top 5 consultants at the Democratic Party. Almost $1 billion to 5 consultants. There is no way there's nothing you can say to me to convince me that was ethical. There's nothing you can say to me to convince me that's all above board. And it would take a hell of a lot of convincing to convince me that that was completely legal. So there is a whole underground of these lobbyists and there's different levels and to the consultant grift, because I've only been talking about the political consultants, the people who consult on campaigns, but there's a whole other grift of consulting for industry and corporations. And so people who are in public service, politicians, when they get out of government, they'll go start their own they'll do like Tony Blinken did. So now he's Biden's Secretary of State, but before then he was a top aide to Biden. He was a top aide at George W. Bush White House. And he was a key figure in lying us into the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War. So he helped lie us into these wars. The whole time he was in government, he helped continue those wars, make sure they continued unabated. And then as soon as he gets out of government, he starts a consulting firm where he helps secure contracts for defense contractors. So he helps get the contracts. He acts as a middleman between the defense contractors looking for a contract for whatever, to build missiles or build whatever military equipment for the government. And he just trades in off of his influence and the people that he knows at the Department of Defense, people he knows in Congress. And he secures, through his corruption, these contracts for his clients, which are defense contractors. So that type of consulting is, honestly, I think that's even worse than the grift around campaigns, because you're just directly serving these corporations and cashing in off of your previous unethical behaviors, and you're cashing in off of the connections that you still have to people in government, and you're also cashing in on the fact that the door is always open. So all those clients that Tony Blinken had at his consultant firm, Well, they hit the fucking jackpot because the person that they were paying millions of dollars to turned around and become the Secretary of State and is going to grant them even more contracts and do whatever the fuck else that they want. So the there I mean there is this I'll just say this stage is ripe for some bombshell expose and document dumps and leaks on what's actually going on with these consultants. Boy, that was a fucking tangent, wasn't it? Charlie Brown's Rebellion says social conditioning services ain't cheap, apparently. Yeah. And honestly, I don't even think those ads work because people don't aren't convinced by it. And it's just something that I mentioned when I wrote that article. The obsession with these ungodly campaign ad buys, there's an argument to be made it was a grift from the beginning from these consultants, these media consultants who were just trying to pad their wallet. Honestly, I think that's the most logical explanation for it. But even if the most charitable spin that I could put on it is that for all of those uninteresting, uninspiring corporate Democrats who have absolutely nothing to offer voters, spending millions of dollars on ads is like a cheap shortcut. Well, it's not really cheap, it's very expensive. It's like a shortcut to manipulate just enough voters to come out and vote for you. Not because they think that you're going to do anything, not because they like your policy platform, just because you've bombarded the public with your name so much that when they're in the booth, they see your name and like, there's like some fucking primitive connection to all the ads that they saw, and they just vote for you. That's the best, most charitable interpretation I could come up with for why consultants are so heavy on these political ads. A cheap trick to manipulate some voters. But it doesn't, like I said, that doesn't convince people, that doesn't move people, that doesn't excite people, it doesn't inspire people, it doesn't inform people. So it makes absolutely no sense why the Justice Democrats are doing it. Like, if you're allegedly leading a movement, you don't recruit people to your movement through commercials. That's not how it works. You're not gonna like, and with Premier Jack Paul's Medicare for All, like, what did $900,000 in Medicare for All ads even look like? Was it just those like little clips on YouTube videos, or like what could you have possibly gotten out of it? It makes no sense, and that's what I'm saying. The only explanation is, and there's no way you think that $900,000 in ads is more effective at advancing Medicare for All than doing direct action and organizing direct action to confront the leadership of the Democratic Party, or withholding your vote in the speaker's race until you get a vote on Medicare. There's no way you think spending $900,000 on ads is more effective at advancing Medicare for All. So like I said, it just seems like they're in on the grift, and that's their buy-in. Turbo Gigi says, "How much more boutique left can you get than a Galnas's tax surge?" Yeah. And honestly, that shit just seems like a fucking cheap marketing gimmick to promote her brand. To be real with you, because it's the same font that of that's in her merchandise store. So she did this whole thing, created all this controversy. She says, "Oh, because I want to raise awareness to tax it." Bitch, taxing the rich has been an overwhelmingly popular position in this country forever, my entire fucking life. Because everybody knows the rich don't pay taxes. Everybody knows corporations don't pay taxes. You don't need to convince people that that's the policy that we need in this country. So this whole idea of, oh, she wore it to promote the policy, that sounds like bullshit. More than anything, it looked like she was just promoting her own fucking brand. Turbo GG says they're playing the long game. That's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They know that at some point there's going to be return on their investment. At some point, them or somebody in their staff is going to start their own consulting firm or media company, whatever it is, and they're going to fucking cash in. And they want to be in the good graces of all the people handing out money in the Democratic Party. That's why they're spending all these money with these consultants, and that's why they will never challenge them at consequential moments when it matters. Zanitu says, that's true. Corporate Dems are at least getting money from corporations. The fraud squad shakes down poor people $27 at a time. No, but for real though, it is fucking gross. I try to avoid throwing around like legal terms and because they carry a certain amount of weight. I've for months I've been struggling to see how what they're doing isn't just outright fraud. I don't know how this doesn't count as them defrauding millions of people in this country. Because they're doing one thing, have no intention of following up or following through on it. And in fact, they're doing the exact opposite. AOC will give your money straight to corporate Democrats. And when she's not doing that, she spends hundreds of millions of dollars to give it to other corporate Democrats running consulting firms. What the fuck is this? You might as well just give your money straight to the DNC. Cut out the middleman. Just give your money to the DNC. Sunday Gardenia says, I'd like to send you $100 donation. Wow. But PayPal and is fighting. Oh, PayPal and I are fighting right now. I got CC, Cash App, or Zelle. Would it be? Give me 1 second. I have a Cash App. I barely ever use it. I'll tell you what it is right now. Okay, I'm gonna put my Cash App in the. Fuck me. I'm gonna put my Cash App in the chat. Let me just make sure it's correct. Yeah, I just put my Cash App in the chat. If you guys want to donate, help support the show, I would greatly appreciate that. DSG, what's up, D? Long time follower on Twitter. Been watching the show for a while too. Waste of money. Goddamn right. Sunday Gardenia says, imagine if they spent that money helping people. And that's, I wrote a couple articles on how much of a fucking waste giving money to these Justice Democrats are. And I guess you could say this is the latest addition to the series. And I keep making the point because the left, it seems, is in so much despair. We're so powerless and we can't advance our agenda. And I keep making a point. It's not because we don't have the resources to do it. It's because we keep putting it all behind these charlatan politicians who don't give a fuck about advancing the policy agenda. They just want to advance their own careers. So if you diverted the money, all the money that we're wasting to fund the careers of Justice Democrats and Nina Turner and Bernie Sanders, if you put all that money into mutual aid to help poor people in your community, if you put that money into funding direct action to put pressure on politicians to advance your policy agenda, all of those things would be infinitely more productive and produce more results than giving money to some shitty politician who don't give a fuck about you. That's the point I keep making. Troy C says Justice Democrats. That name just sounds so fraudulent now. No, I call them the Just Democrats because they're literally just fucking Democrats at this point. You tell me what the difference between any of them, and you point some fucking corporate Democrat off the street and you tell me what the difference between any of them are. Zani2 says, are you sure movements don't use ads until I'm like 87% sure. Dr. King had a public access infomercial for the civil rights movement. I think he said, if you act now, we'll send you a set of a Tupperware set. Yeah, like, I mean, and that's always like a barometer that I use. I'm like, okay, can you imagine Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, W.D. Du Bois, like, all these Fred Hampton revolutionary leaders for the left, the working class, the grassroots, the poor, barely middle class. Can you imagine any of them, one, doing half the shit that the Justice Democrats are doing, or even putting up with the shit that the Justice Democrats are doing? I cannot in good conscience imagine any of this shit. So it makes me hardline in my disgust with what I'm seeing right now. There's no way if MLK, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, were leading the charge for the left right now, and they were introduced to the wonders of crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, that they would take $13 million that they raised from poor people and use it at DNC consulting firms. Not in my wildest fucking dreams can I imagine that scenario being true. So this goes to show you how far this left movement has fallen and really is not doing shit for the left. AdKid says, unapologetic salute for continuing to expose AOC and the fraud squad for the sellouts they are, using an ongoing marketing campaign across all platforms nonstop would build and change Americans' DNA. Sunday Gardenia says, sent. Thank you. Thank you so much for that for that donation. Let me check to see if I got that. And I sure did. Wow. Wow. $100. Can we get a shout out for Sunday Gardenia? My God, came out with the $100 donation on Cash App. Wow. Wow. That's a lot. I very much appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I think that is the most I've ever gotten on a live stream. That is the most I've ever gotten on a live stream. And I will remember that. I will keep a note of that. Again, everybody in the chat, please thank you, Sunday. Send a thank you to Sunday Gardenia for that $100 contribution on Cash App. All right, so I'll be checking the chat for a couple more minutes. I know there's a delay from when I speak, but if you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, anything else that you want to say, uh, please speak now. Forever hold your peace, because I'm out of stories. And oh, Christ on a cracker, I have to chop up. I want to publish. I want to post some of those videos I did, especially that one with Ro Kondo. Oh my God! If you all didn't watch the live stream on 2 days ago, that video from Ro Kondo was fucking gross. So I want to cut that segment up and I want to publish that separately. That I don't want to do that story I did about Julian Assange separately. So I have a couple things that I want to post on the channel, a couple videos I want to post on the channel. So I have to edit those. When I'll probably do that when I get off of this, because what is sleep? What is sleep? Georgie says the Justice Democrats turned out to be the most insidious part of the Democratic Party, and that's what I'm upset about is the people who push them the hardest. They're acting like they have, I wouldn't want to say responsibility for it, because we were all wrong at the time. But they act like they don't have a responsibility to set the record straight, and that's what's pissing me off. Because you all gave them the platform, you all gave them the fundraising base, and it was all people that thought they were actually going to do something. And now the people are still giving them money hand over fist, even though they sold us the fuck out. And none of the people who are pushing Justice Democrats are willing to come on and say, all right, everybody, just stop with the donations. Please stop with the donations. They're not going to fight for you. So that's what's getting under my skin. Not only are they the most insidious parts of the Democratic Party, all the people pushing them because they thought they would be changed, they won't even acknowledge this, and they're still pretending like they're on your side, and they're still pretending like they're allies, and they're still pretending like they deserve your fucking donations. And that's gross to me. Sunday Gardenia says, I'd love to see the video that YouTube took down. All right, so one, it's on Odyssey. Odyssey.com. There's a link to Odyssey in the description box of the YouTube channel. So you see the tab that has the list of videos, and then right next to it has like the home tab, whatever. If you go all the way to the end of the tabs, it says about, and in that about section, there's a link to Odyssey. All the videos that I post on YouTube are automatically backed up to Odyssey, and you can go and see them all there, even if YouTube deletes them. So the videos are on Odyssey. Also, I guess I could say it because it's pretty deep in the chat, and anyway, so I don't think anybody's gonna be watching it to report it. The live stream that I cut that video from, because I didn't record that video like on its own. It was part of a live stream like I'm doing right now. The live stream, and it was in the headline of the live stream. The title was almost identical too. That live stream is still up, so you can go and watch the live stream where I talk about the Jimmy Dore interview with Robert Malone. It's still on my fucking channel, so it makes no sense. I mean, for all the reasons that I've listed before, the censoring and deleting it, calling it medical misinformation, it makes no sense. But also, it's still on the fucking channel. Everything I said in that video is still on the fucking channel. So I'm not gonna make a big deal about it. I mean, about it still being up before they fuck around and take that down and give me another strike. It counted as like a fucking second strike or something. So I ain't gonna. I'm not advertising the fact that it's still on my channel. But it's still there. It's still there. So like I said, you can see it there. You can see it in Odyssey. And go look and tell me if anything I said is medical misinformation or misleading or anything like that. I was very straight up and was responding to expert opinion from an immunologist. Tracy says, I happen to have caught it live. I'm glad that there was at least a decent amount of people who watched that stream and was watching it live. I really do think that was one of the most important interviews that Jimmy Dore has done on his channel, and I felt like, one, I wanted to share that perspective with you all because I know it's hard to find that kind of perspective, and two, I felt like I had some important commentary to add to that discussion. And so I really did want people to have that video up by itself, because when in the live stream it was maybe like, I think it was the second story that I did, so it was maybe like 40 minutes deep into the live stream before I even started talking about it. And I know most people, I look at the analytics, most people, of course, regular people who like watch all my content, they'll watch the whole live stream, but most people clicking on the live stream, they're not gonna wait around 40 minutes for me to start talking about a story that they were looking for. So that's why I wanted to upload it separately. And YouTube had different plans about that. But as always, I'm here yammering on. Said I would be off. I would end the live stream, but I am going to end it, like I said 100 times before. If you guys want to help support the show, the links are in the description box. PayPal, Patreon, the GoFundMe. All of that is there. All that is there. Thank you so much, everybody who helped, who showed up for this live stream, left all the amazing comments. Sunday Gardenia again for that amazing contribution through Cash App. Zanichu says, I forgot to hit send. Sunday, you're the mayor. That happens to me sometimes too. If I'm in a live stream, I'll write a comment or something. And I forget to send hit send when it's relevant. And it's just sitting there and I'm like, oh fuck, I never sent it. But Zanichu says, Sunday, you're the man or woman or human or however you identify for that donation. Yes, that is definitely the truth. Georgie says, who's the douchebag who hit the thumbs out? It's funny. There's this one account who, if I have a like on a video, I'm almost certain it's him. And then maybe like 2 or 3 other people who join him. But most of the time it's like overwhelming likes on my video. But I know there's some haters who just literally just come and dislike every video I do. I mean, it still counts as interaction on to the algorithm, so keep hating. Analyst says you're on point. Thank you. No, thank you. Maybe because he said vax mandate is misinformation. They call it experimental gene therapy injections vaccines. Well, that is definitely a fresh perspective, cool world. I think that was the first comment I read from you, so I guess you just got into the stream. Oh no, yeah, I guess you just got into the stream. Well, this is the end of the stream. I will catch you on the flip side, though. I will catch all of you again when I'm back live. I'm thinking about doing it tomorrow again because I have some stories I want to cover, but that's kind of it's kind of cutting it deep with the hotel expenditures, to be real with you. So I'll see how that goes. Then again, I did get that donation from Sunday, and that will definitely help cover a room for tomorrow for another show. So that is, everybody watch out for that. I'll make an announcement on whether or not I'm going to go live tomorrow. So thank you all again so much. You all are the best. Majin Bull says, Dontel, did you see Ryan Grimm trying to use the JustDems courage on the infrastructure bill to shit on Force Bill yesterday? Brianna Joy Gray kind of went at him. Can you tell me where you got that reaction from Brianna Joy Gray? And as far as Ryan Grimm trying to use the justice, like I've seen like a lot of people are like they drew this arbitrary line for themselves in the sand that, okay, they're not going to fight for Medicare for all. They're not going to fight for UBI. They're not going to fight to end homelessness. So I'm just going to draw this line in the sand that if they do anything, I'm going to wave that fucking banner. I'm going to throw a parade and I'm going to like do a victory lap and proclaim to everybody who has doubts about them, see, they're not sellouts, they're not sellouts. I think that's the dumbest fucking thing ever, honestly. Like, context matters. Scale matters. And whatever fucking type of show they're putting on right now, it does not make up for force of vote. It does not make up for voting for Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House. It does not make it up for folding on the CARES Act. It doesn't make up for shilling for Joe Biden. It doesn't make up for folding for the $15 minimum wage. So I don't, honestly, you could say, oh, all these things are great. They would have impacted people's lives. They sure do. But honestly, I don't give a fuck what they're doing. This is all theater. And anything that they're pushing for has been improved. They got the okay from Joe Biden. That's why they aren't pushing for Medicare for all, because they did not get no okay from Joe Biden to push for Medicare for all. So they're not doing that. That's why they aren't pushing for UBI. That's why they aren't pushing to end the homelessness crisis and to end the evictions and protect millions of people from being evicted. Because those things haven't been approved by Joe Biden. So that's not on the agenda. That's not on offer, and they will never fight for those things. So I'm not giving them credit for this bullshit. He deleted his original tweet like a bitch. I'm sure he did. Susan Mercurio says, hi there, glad to see you back. Glad to see you back, Susan. Sorry you caught me at the end of the stream, but hopefully, maybe, possibly we'll be back tomorrow. So we'll see about that. Majin Buu says, yeah, the focus on the infrastructure bill is purely just to create PR for the progressives. That's honestly what it is. And I think like, it sounds conspiratorial, but honestly, I think all of this has been planned out by the leadership of the Democratic Party, and every inch, anything that they get in this reconciliation bill was already decided, and all the theater about, oh, can they get Joe Manchin on board and Kirsten Sinema? Honestly, I think it like I said, it's just all fucking theater. I think it's just all fucking theater. Cool World says anyone who's still giving those people benefit of the doubt is completely out of their mind. Yeah, like I don't know how benefit of the doubt just became like this default position for politicians, and the people who just off the jump don't believe a word that comes out of their mouth anymore. They've become the crazy person, and because they're not being given the benefit of the doubt enough to politicians, they're not giving enough credit to politicians. Like, what the fuck is? They're not giving enough praise to politicians. What the fuck is that? All right, y'all. It's been 2 hours. Goddamn. All right. So I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna stop reading the comments because I will be in this fucking live chat forever. So I'm gonna end the stream. Thank you so much for